The woods were crowding so close when Ellie woke that at first she thought she dreamt her way right through to dusk. Before she'd allowed her eyes to shut, they'd been driving past white-walled villages and golden fields, the lazy spin of wind turbines on a hazy hill. Now there was nothing beyond the car but trees. They made a tunnel of the road, reaching out with fringed branches to brush the roof and overpowering the Beatles' air conditioning with their rich, sweet breath. Ellie remembered Maddie mentioning something about there being woods around Grey Waters, but there was no sign of the house or of any buildings, just those stretching limbs, the endless leaves. All that green was dizzying. Ellie rubbed a sweaty hand across her face. Her head was still thick with sleep, her body aching, her shoulders stiff from holding herself apart from Maddie, sitting in the cramped back seat beside her. Maddie didn't return her gaze. She remained bowed over the phone, half hidden by her hair, a perfectly straightened auburn wing. She had been that way for hours, and in the driver's seat, Maddie's mother, Sarah, continued to fume. Ellie could see Sarah's narrowed eyes in the rearview mirror and her mouth sucked tight, but though she'd chewed off most of her lipstick, Sarah hadn't exploded yet. Briefly, Ellie considered exploding for her, snatching the phone from her best friend's fingers, yanking the window open and hurling it out into the trees. Instead, she leant forwards, trying to think of something harmless to say, and that's when she saw the girl, a girl standing in front of them in the centre of the road, standing very still as if stunned or waiting, framed by the green of the trees like a girl in a picture. A moment ago, the road had been clear. The girl must have come scrambling out of the woods, so the verges looked impenetrable, the trees bound with nettles, their thick branches entwining, the bright July sky reduced to a scattering of stained glass pieces overhead. Caught in the canopy's shade, the girl didn't appear to be crossing. She wasn't moving at all. "Sarah," Ellie said, and then, as it struck her that the car wasn't slowing, she grasped the back of the driver's seat. "Stop the car," she said. "Sarah, please." Had Maddie's mother gone blind? Had she lost it completely? They were closing in less than 10 metres away, and yet Sarah kept driving. "What's the matter?" she said, lifting her chin, about to turn to Ellie. And how could she be turning from the windscreen? Ellie's hands rose, seizing the older woman's neat blonde head. She felt the stiffness of hairspray and the soft underneath, and the tiny bite of a pin against her thumb. "Look!" she shouted. Through the windscreen, the girl was looking straight back at them, her eyes shining through her dark, snarled hair. And Ellie couldn't stand it. She couldn't watch. Her shaking hands returned, covering her face.
Hi, Megan. Thank you for that. That's absolutely stunning. I love your writing. Ever since I read The Dawning, just the images and the way you produce them is amazing. What was that reading from?
So this is from We Wait, which is my latest novel, my fourth novel that came out in November, so before all the madness started, luckily, from small press, Eyrie Press, who've been great actually, and launched at the wonderful 5 Leaves, of course.
Of course. So you've been writing quite a while, haven't you? So when and how did you first realise that you were a writer?
Well, I think I don't know, it sounds a bit funny to say I realised I was a writer. Like, I don't know, it sounds slightly arrogant, but I've always loved writing, and since childhood, really. But probably my first novel I ever wrote, I wrote in junior school, and it was called Villa of Fear, and it had lots and lots of coloured illustrations in brightly coloured felt tip. A lot of red pen was used. It was very grisly, and thankfully for the universe, no copies exist anymore.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Only there is a copy in an exercise book. So that was the only copy. It's gone.
Wow.
But then I carried on writing. I did a novel in my 20s that is stayed in a drawer under the bed ever since, which is where it belongs. And I wrote some short stories, but I was mostly writing for myself. I didn't really try and get my writing out into the world until I was about 30, and then moved to Nottingham and decided, right, okay, it's time to give this a go and be a bit brave. And so even though I've been writing a lot and almost every day before then, that was when I started. So yeah, in terms of, I wrote my first novel when I came to Nottingham and enrolled on an MA, creative writing MA as well.
Yeah. Did you find the MA useful?
I love the MA, mainly for the amazing people who I met and who I'm still in touch with, and just also I think it was that of doing it on your own for so long, and then suddenly you're surrounded by other people who are writers, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is like a thing, it's a real thing, and it's not just me scribbling away, and also they understand that you're as bonkers as they are.
Yeah.
Rather than normal people who just think you just live in your imagination. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's sort of, yeah, when you tell people you're a writer, they kind of look at you and they either say, oh, I could write a novel, or they just don't get it at all, do they?
Yeah, and it's understandable they don't get it, because if you're spending, particularly if you write fiction, you're spending so much time with made up people in made up situations that there are different diagnoses for that. We just happen to write it
It's
down.
true. Yeah, there must be some medication out there somewhere. Okay, so you read from your new novel, which is not that new anymore, published last November. What are you working on at the moment?
Okay, so I'm about 40,000 words into the next novel, though very much first draft, which is, well, it started off as a psychological thriller, but because I've got a bit obsessed with spooky things lately, it's kind of gone down that way. So we'll call it a parapsychological thriller, one of those kind of in-betweeny things. Is it a ghost? Is it heads? That kind of thing. So I'm really enjoying that. I've also been tweaking a few short stories, and so because I've almost, I think, nearly got enough for a second collection. So when again they'll be mostly, everything's become spooky lately. So that's the kind of way.
I have noticed this in your writing. Quite dark to start with.
I know, and now it's gone completely over, and I'm just having loads of fun.
Yeah, well, that's the way to do it. There's no point sitting down in front of a computer screen or notebook every day if you don't actually enjoy it.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
How has lockdown and all the surrounding horribleness affected your writing life? Has it?
Well, it did actually. I've always, because I work part time, and do creative writing workshops and things as well. So I'm usually quite busy, and I'm usually squeezing writing in around the edges of things. And when I did a week of working from home for my day job, and then got furloughed, and everyone was saying to me, "Oh, you must be over the moon. You've got all this time to write." And actually, I've struggled to write for at least a fortnight, if not longer. And I just miss people and being a bit useful, and I work with kids, and I really missed that. And also, just never mind any of that, just the madness of all of this and worrying about people who you love and doing the right thing, and and just adjusting. So it took me a little while, and then once I'd sort of got a routine back in, and actually once I started getting busier with freelance work and there was more pressure on my time, the writing came back. But I do feel very lucky that now that I am writing regularly again, I write every morning, and whereas I used to have to sort of flip off to go and do something or other, I can keep going for a little bit longer. And it's that thing, I feel very lucky that when you write, and those moments when you just disappear into it and you lose track of time, I think that's very useful in this lockdown situation.
Yeah, it's kind of a sort of self-made way of escape, isn't it? Because I know a lot of people are struggling to read, although being able to escape into someone else's world is arguably a good thing to do at the moment.
No, reading has been wonderful, actually. That's been one thing I've had more time to read. So I always read anyway, but I've read loads, which is lovely. Have you found it with your writing, Pippa? Have you been able to read?
No, but then I've been really busy. I haven't had the good fortune to be furloughed. Both my jobs have actually ramped up since lockdown. So
Yeah. Loads of people have found that. I think everybody's either like got not too much time, and that's making them go a bit doolally, or they're completely working badly and it goes the other way. So it's strange.
yeah, it's very odd times. So would you say it's made you more productive then, if you're actually finding sort of more solid, coherent, longer times to sit down and write?
I don't know, because I think I've also got slower, and so I'm going, but I think I'm going more at a snail's rate. But then maybe that's part of just, I don't know, but I think maybe that's because it took me a little while to get back into it, so I'm still in that place. So I don't think it's necessarily made me more productive, but because also I've got more time to criticise what I've done and go
Yeah.
back and cross everything out. So, sometimes my days of writing consist of like getting rid of 1,000 words rather than writing.
Which is actually harder work than writing the things in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I don't get rid of the whole lot, it'll be all right.
Yeah, please don't do that. Have you found any sort of surprising inspirations from the whole lockdown situation and things, or anything else that's going on in these very odd times?
Well, I think, like I said, reading. I've got nearly got through my to be read pile, which is like that's never ever happened before. And discovering new writers, but also in the general scheme of things. I mean, I know people have been criticised behaving badly and stuff, but I think the general attitude of people helping each other out and wanting to support people has been inspiring in itself, actually. And I think that there's been a lot of good demonstrated, as well as obviously the odd instance of not so much. So
Yeah, it's you could just sort of do a sweep of Bournemouth Beach on a Saturday and get rid of all the idiots, couldn't you?
you could.
I shouldn't say things like that. So you said earlier that you've been missing people and missing seeing people. Are you managing to? How would you normally engage with the writing community, and are you managing to do anything like that during lockdown?
That's got better as well, which is probably why things have felt a bit easier as time has gone on. So my fiction group, I've got a regular fiction group. We're still meeting online with Zoomy Business. I was supposed to go away for every year. I go on a writing retreat with some friends in Scotland who we don't really see each other in between, and obviously that was cancelled. But we kind of did a week online with it, and we did workshops for each other and everything else, and that was really lovely, really precious. And we're now meeting monthly, which we never would have done before. So that's really nice. Also, at the very beginning, I was due to do a workshop with a local writers group, Fossaway Writers, and obviously we couldn't do that because everything stopped. And so I did the workshop via their online thing. I didn't want to charge them because it was the first one I'd done, and I thought this could all go terribly wrong. I might just, I don't know, delete everything, or I don't know, shut everything off. But actually it was fine. It was really good that they donated the money to Carriages Cafe in Newark, which provides meals for the homeless. So that was a really nice thing. And I think that was the thing that really cheered me up right at the beginning. And plus the workshop still was quite buzzy, even though it wasn't face to face in a normal way. So that was really nice. And so I've been quite busy. So I've also Nick and Vic did their LGBTQ festival thing, and they asked me to be a part of that. So that was really nice as well. And my publisher has actually just got Arts Council funding to do a short story course that I'm been planning to do. I'm doing that with Giselle Lieb. So that's been really interesting working with somebody else. But we've got to film a load of stuff. I'm a bit worried about that, but it'll be great.
Yes, it'll be fine. I may see if I can access that. Do you find this is a completely off the wall question, do you find a big difference between writing fiction and novels, long fiction and short fiction?
Yeah, well, the novels, you're so in it, you're kind of just living it, and you know that you are just going to be in this tunnel for ages and you're not going to come out, basically. And in a way that gives you a freedom, because you've kind of got time to sort of get it all wrong and then hopefully sort it out. And also the characters become more real because you're living with them. Though in a short story, I like to think that the characters feel real when you're writing it, but there does feel there's kind of an excitement with writing a short story, because you think, right, it might be a month, it might be 2 months, but then it's going to be done. Whereas the novel, you think, right, batten down the hatches. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm stuck to this keyboard for the next year.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Thanks. Yeah. Short stories puzzle me, but this isn't my interview. Who inspires you? Not necessarily writers, but who sort of inspires your work and the way you approach it?
Well, in terms of writers, probably the one writer who's stayed with me since teenage years till now, who isn't going anywhere, is probably Joyce Carol Oates, because I love her. She's so passionate and she's very political and she's unstoppable. I can't. You think you have to live 3 times as long as Joyce Carol Oates in order to read all the books she writes. She's ridiculously prolific. But in terms of what inspires my actual writing, it's funny because you don't really analyse it when you're doing it, and I think sometimes the things you're accessing are unconscious, but I do find myself coming back to the same themes over and over. So there's I write a lot about well, I used to write more about motherhood. Now I don't. I write a lot about mothers. So thanks, Mom. And I'm also a mom. So and I write quite a lot of teenage girls. I don't really know why I keep going back to teenage girls. I think women don't know. I think maybe my brain is stuck there. But in terms of just general people at the moment, honestly, I feel like everybody inspires me. I get excited by someone who's being nice to their dog in the park at the moment. I think, and I'm missing my friends so much, and my family. I'm missing my sister loads, and it's just. I think you just really, really, really realise how people are. I don't know. They're almost the meaning of life. Other people.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess connection is really important, isn't it? And maintaining that connection in lots of different ways. It kind of feels one-dimensional, just communicating with people remotely by Zoom. You don't get the touch. You don't get the sort of body language so much. Yeah.
And I didn't really think I was a very tactile person, but now it's like if there was a vaccine tomorrow, it would be like beware everybody, because I think I would just grab every single person I saw as soon as possible. So perhaps they want to hold off on that for a
bit. Yeah, you've got to balance the risks, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you most proud of in your writing career?
Oh my goodness, lots of things. I have been incredibly lucky. Every time you've got a publication out and you're actually holding it in a bound copy in your hands, I can't imagine that will ever get old. And if I'm lucky enough for it to happen again, then I will be just as over the moon. The launches as well. I mean, I always love a bit of a party anyway, but it's just that whole, I think that they're like just as good as weddings or christenings or anything else. They're just this complete yay. So I love, you know, all the book launches, and yeah, I'll hold on to them. Yeah, and you know, those moments when you get an email or a phone call to say that yes, the publisher does want it, and that's and especially if you've been trying for a really long time, it's one of those things. It's like when you're on the verge of giving up, it's usually when the sun comes out from behind the clouds, and it's a gift. And I think I've just been incredibly lucky, Pippa. So there's been countless proud moments or lucky moments.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than luck, believe me. You work hard and you've got talent. I mean, luck doesn't do it on its own. No, yeah, that's a message to all aspiring writers out there. You can't do it just by luck. You've got to put the hard work in.
Yeah, you do actually have to write as well.
Yes, and that's not easy. So what's next? I mean, you're going to finish off the novel you're working on.
Who knows when it'll end? It'll probably be at least a year from now. By the time I've finished the first draft and then started redrafting, if not longer, before the next novel's finished. But hopefully, I might be able to sort out enough short stories for another submission kind of package before that, because I think this novel, I keep doing stupid things with this novel, whereas it was supposed to be very straight, and now I've decided there's an experimental bit in the middle and all this other stuff. So I've made it really difficult for myself. So hopefully I'll be able to get my short stories together and see if I could come up with a submission package for that, because I'd love another collection that was just spooky stories in that genre, sort of horror-ish. And I've also got a novella that I really want to get finished. So I'm busy. So yes, it's carry on, keep going is the plan. Keep going, whatever happens. So yeah.
Is there any sort of ultimate ambition that you're working towards? I mean, are you one of these writers who wants to win all the prizes, or is the writing and the publication enough, or, you know?
Well, I think every single writer would like to win all the prizes and also, you know, hit the bestseller list and everything else. But I mean, a long time ago, I sort of realised I'm an indie author rather than a mainstream author, and you know, I would love to see more people reading my books, particularly the last one, because it is quite accessible, I think.
Yeah,
but,
I think so.
I'm very proud of it. But I think for me, honestly, it's just keep writing, and when I have had periods, like between publishers, when I've thought, oh, okay, so I have been really lucky, I've had these books published, but maybe it's never going to happen again. I've had this kind of dark night of the soul, but I've always come out and thought, well, actually, you do it because you love writing, not because you love being, you know, I do love being published, but that's not why I do it. So yeah, no big, huge ambitions, just to not stop, really, just keep writing, whatever.
That's good, because that's totally within your control, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can completely achieve that, and I rather hope you do.
Doesn't matter what I write then either.
Yeah, but it is nice to have that bound copy in front of you, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That's been really, really interesting. And I would love to sort of pull out some of the threads of that conversation and in a longer interview sometime, but yeah, I'll have to talk to Ross about that. Anyway, would you like to finish with a reading?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much, Pippa, as well. It's been really fun. I sort of forgot we're recording it as well, so I hope it's all right. Okay. Right, so this is, I'm going to read you a tiny bit this is later in the novel, We Wait Again, and this is different set of characters. It goes between 2 generations and 2 timelines, and this is the sort of mother of the house, and she's waking up at night, And the only thing I think you need to know is that her husband left a couple of months ago. So I think that's all you need to know. Marcia opened her eyes to find her husband sitting at the foot of her bed. In those initial moments, still waterlogged with sleep, she imagined herself swept back in time, back to that very first night she'd spent at Greywaters. Arthur crouched beside her, his body bluish in the dim. But even with the shadows, there could be no mistaking that worn-out frame for young. As her vision adjusted, Marcia took in the sharp, hunched shoulders and wiry arms, fingers layered in his lap like pale, peeled sticks. Old bones, she thought, still waking. You'd never guess he was only 45, though perhaps that was partly how he held himself. Right now he was sitting with his head bowed away from her and his chin tucked tightly to his chest, everything folded inward so that she didn't dare to touch him. Not yet. Besides, despite what she had been hoping for, praying for, it didn't seem possible that her husband had managed to return. They had turned the key in the lock and climbed the stairs, let alone travelled all that way. Surely he hadn't driven. How exactly had he made the journey? It had been so long since he'd shared Marcia's bed that even the dips he'd left in the mattress had begun to disappear. Back when Arthur had lived with her properly, on those nights when she'd wait to find he'd slipped away to wander through Greywater's other darkened rooms, Marcia would run her palms over those dents in the bed. It had been part of her own madness, she supposed, her own childishness, repeatedly feeling out his missing shape, as if, like Peter Pan, he might have at least left his shadow behind. Arthur? She spoke at last. Her voice was husky and jolting. How could he have returned so quietly, so calmly, after everything he'd been saying about the house? It made no sense. It couldn't be true. It wasn't. As the figure lifted its long, pale face and turned to her, it was clear that this was not her husband.